You know, we've all gotten pretty used to what AI can do, right? Chatbots can give us advice, maybe draft an email, but what if an AI could actually do things for you? Not just talk, but act. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today with a tool called Moltbot, and it's causing a huge stir. I mean, listen to that quote again. When a veteran tech investor says something makes them feel like they're living in the future for the first time since ChatGPT, you've got to pay attention. This isn't just another app we're talking about. It's a real change in how we interact with technology. It's the difference between asking an AI for a recipe versus having it actually go and order all the groceries you need. Big difference. So what are we really talking about here? What makes this a new species of AI? Well, the whole idea is moving away from those chatbots that just live in a browser tab. We're moving towards what you call an agentic AI. It's an AI that lives right on your own devices and has the power to, well, to actually do stuff, to execute tasks in the real world. It's that jump from passive advice to proactive action. And this really breaks it down. You see, traditional AI, it's reactive. It sits there, waiting for you to tell it what to do. But Moltbot, it's proactive. It's designed to take action. And here's the kicker. It lives on your own machine. So instead of just telling you how to organize a folder full of files, it can just do it for you. And because it's self-hosted, all your data stays with you. It's private. It's under your control. That's a huge departure for most cloud AI services. And you know what's wild? This didn't come from some giant tech company. Nope. It was built by just one developer, Peter Steinberger. He released it as an open source project called Clawbot, and it just exploded. Gaining over 9,000 stars on GitHub in a single day is insane. It just goes to show you how hungry people were for an AI that could finally do more than just chat. But as you can imagine, that kind of sudden fame, it brought some serious trouble. So when you blow up like that, the big players start to notice. In this case, it was the AI giant Anthropic. And that attention, well, it kicked off this crazy, chaotic, but honestly fascinating transformation. The whole project was forced to change, and that messy process is actually perfectly captured in the new name it had to take on. Just look at this timeline. It's nuts. The project goes viral in early December. By the end of January, bam, a legal notice from Anthropic lands. They're saying the name Claude is way too similar to their big AI model, Claude. And the developer didn't have months or even weeks to figure this out. The community had to vote on a new name and completely rebrand the whole thing in one single day. Talk about pressure. And this is where it gets really crazy. It shows you just how vulnerable you are when you're forced to move that fast. I mean, we're talking about the seconds it took to switch over the social media accounts. In that tiny window, scammers jumped in, hijacked the old Claudebot name, and immediately started pumping out fake crypto tokens to the community. It was an absolute nightmare. But out of all that chaos, a new identity was born. The community landed on the name Moltbot. And it's actually a pretty cool metaphor, right? Like a lobster shedding its old shell so it can grow. It was a perfect fit for a project that was forced into this really painful, but ultimately necessary evolution. Okay, so now we know the wild story behind the name. Let's get into the tech. Let's look under the hood at this new exoskeleton and see what actually makes Moltbot tick. Right, so here's the most important thing to get. Moltbot isn't really a chatbot. It's more like a message router, a bridge. Just picture it. On one side, you've got all your chat apps, WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever you use. On the other side, you've got this AI agent that can access all the stuff on your computer. Moltbot is that critical piece in the middle that connects the two. So let's walk through how it works. Let's say you send it a message, something like, hey, summarize the PDFs in my downloads folder. First, an adapter grabs that message and cleans it up, so it doesn't matter if it came from WhatsApp or Slack. Then it goes to the gateway, which is kind of the brain of the operation, and it sends it off to the AI agent. The agent, using a large language model, the same kind of tech as ChatGPT, figures out what you're asking, and then boom, it actually executes the command. It goes into your file system, reads those files, and sends the summary right back to you. And really, that gateway is the heart of the whole system. The air traffic controller analogy is perfect. It's not flying the planes, that's what the AI agent does, but the gateway is managing everything. It's directing all the traffic, making sure your messages from all these different apps get to the agent, and just as importantly, that the answers get back to you in the right place. So you can see how this setup gives Moltbot some serious power. But let's be real for a second. Giving an AI the keys to your entire digital life, the power to read your files, send your emails, run any command it wants, that's also extremely risky. And that right there is the central conflict of Moltbot. Its greatest strength is, without a doubt, its greatest danger. Okay, so let's start with the incredible power. Here's a great example. One user was looking to buy a new car, and they decided to just hand over the entire negotiation process to their Moltbot agent. And the results were just, wow. The agent went to work, it scraped Reddit to find out what people were really paying, it started emailing multiple dealerships, engaging in these tough negotiations, it was even smart enough to call out their common sales tactics. And at the end of it all, it saved the user over $4,000. I mean, that is the promise of this kind of AI. Okay, but now let's flip the coin and look at the risk. Another user, Kevin Su, decided to run let's call it a high-stakes experiment. He gave his agent access to his entire investment portfolio with one simple and frankly, terrifying command. Trade this up to $1 million and don't mess up. And you know what? The agent was brilliant. It worked around the clock, analyzing thousands of reports, deploying all these complex trading strategies. It was a masterpiece of autonomous action. But the final result, in the user's own words, it lost everything, every last bit. And that is the brutal, stark reality of what happens when this kind of powerful automation goes off the rails. So this really drives the point home. You have to be extremely careful. The security advice here is not optional. You should never, ever expose the system directly to the public internet. Always run it in what's called a sandbox, like Docker, which is basically a sealed-off digital room. That way, if it goes haywire, it can't trash your whole computer. And maybe most importantly, only give it the bare minimum permissions it needs to do its job, nothing more. Which brings us to the really big question, right? With all this incredible power, but also this massive risk, is this what the future looks like? And maybe a more practical question, who should even be thinking about using this thing right now? So, should you use it? Look, it's not a simple yes or no. In fact, the creator of Moltbot has been very clear that most non-technical folks should probably stay away, at least for now while it's still so new. The breakdown is pretty straightforward. If you're a developer, a tinkerer, someone who loves to mess with this stuff, or if you're really focused on privacy and want to automate things on a separate computer, then yeah, Moltbot could be an absolute game changer for you. But if you're not super technical, or if you're thinking about running this on your main computer, or using it for anything involving real money, the advice is to be incredibly careful, or maybe just don't do it at all. Without knowing exactly how to lock it down, the risk of something going very, very wrong is just too high. When you zoom out, Moltbot really represents a huge shift in thinking. It's a move away from relying on big corporate cloud-based AIs. It points to a future where we have these proactive, self-hosted AI agents that we actually own and control ourselves. And that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. This kind of tech gives AI the power to directly act in our digital lives. As these agents get smarter, more powerful, and more autonomous, we have to ask ourselves, where does our control end and theirs begin? Who or what is really in charge?